But my question is, I guess, will the internet sensation, so your YouTubers, your people on Facebook, things of that nature, are they going to be the downfall of Hollywood, or do you think Hollywood's going to find a way to exploit them so that they stay in power?
Well, again, not knowing Mr. Beast, but kind of knowing the dynamics of social media, say an Issa Rae, for example, who started out, or even if you want to talk about music, a Kobe Calais, who started out on, I don't know how long, I don't know if that was MySpace, if it was that long
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
but you can talk about celebrities who have kind of made it the non-traditional route. So when you look at things that way, social media absolutely has had a change in terms of made a change in terms of people being successful mainstream. I
Right.
guess that's what I want to say. When it comes to Hollywood, though, I think that there will probably always be old Hollywood, kind of like old money, if that makes sense. But I feel like there is definitely space for, room for new school going to Hollywood and making their money and making names for themselves as well. I don't see it being I don't see it being necessarily contentious. I think that when you zoom out and look at the arts, there probably is enough room for everyone. And I mean, what other culture can you look at that is more, I guess, open to new possibilities than, say, a Hollywood? Now, if you're talking about, for example, Oscars and,
Yeah.
Emmys and those types of things, that probably will take at least 20 years longer. We kind of stay behind that because you have to look at who in that space is actually making the decisions,
Yeah.
right? So it's not going to be the cutting edge. Hey, I've watched a couple episodes of Mr. Beast. It's going to be more people like me and older
Yeah.
who are like Mr. What, who, So it's going to take a while for that in terms of the accolades. But I do think in terms of just being part of the money making machine that is known as Hollywood, I think there's space. Yeah.
Well, you kind of put something in perspective for me. I remember in history books, we all know about the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and those people who just had so much. It wasn't even necessarily the money, but they just, in terms of real estate, in terms of assets, in terms of their name, in terms of what they did for their families, you had these people who were just the wealthiest of the wealthiest. And I guess my question today is, will there ever be an Elon Musk, for example, or Richard Branson? Will those ever be a Carnegie, a Rockefeller? Because I feel like it's so easy to make money these days. Like you could just go from zero to a billion, as opposed to the people who had $1 billion for, or billions and billions for 100 years. Even your Walton family. Do you think there'll ever be a family more like the Rockefellers or Carnegies that just kind of is that name that could basically own entire states if they wanted to?
Well, I feel like you touched on a couple of important categories, and one is wealth. And you said it yourself. You were like, well, not necessarily how much money, but how much real estate. And, so wealth is more than, obviously, we all know, more than just cash on hand. But then the other piece you touched on was legacy. And so when you look at legacy, that's a little bit different than being considered an overnight success. And personally, we've talked about this before. I don't, we say overnight success. That was because you saw them for the first time yesterday, and today they're a billionaire. We
Right.
don't really know how long, or how harried their journey may have been. I don't know that there'll ever be, for example, another Gilded Age in America. So, even though we are creating things at a faster clip than, say, railroads, for example,
Right.
or airplanes, aviation, whatever, um, because we're doing so quickly, I don't really think it's necessary to have that long of, I'll use aviation as an example. We don't need that long of a runway, to be able to take off if we're in Harriers, right? We're just going to go straight up,
Yeah.
and then that's that. And so I feel like in terms of that, I don't know that we'll ever see another generation that is. You didn't bring up like political families too, because
Yeah.
political families are starting to look different than they did, say, 30, 40 years ago.
True.
So that, I guess that's a long way of me saying no. I don't think that there will ever, But then again, like young people say, there's levels to this, right? So you do have your, to this day, you have your Rockefellers and Carnegies and just everyone else. But Richard Branson, if you look at a Richard Branson and whoever Mr. Beast is, I would have to say that they will never be on the same level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, I feel like there will always be this hierarchy of my money's older than your money, or my family name is older than yours. But I just don't see us going back to I don't know, railroad barons and that type of thing. I don't.